Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience. Tonight, relax and enjoy some of the most fascinating and mind-bending stories from the podcast, the kind that'll make you think, then help you drift off to sleep.
1 hour of banned technology secrets Joe Rogan and Elon Musk tried to warn us about 2025.
Fundamentally.
Well, let's talk about what you can talk about to what Neuralink is, because the last time you were here, we really couldn't discuss it. And then there was a press release or something that sort of outlined. Yeah,
sure.
That had happened quite a bit after the last time you were here. So what exactly is it? How do you do what happens if someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed? What will take place?
Well, for version 1 of the device, it would be it basically implanted in your skull. So, but it would be flush with your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You'd put the electrode. You'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain, and then you stitch it up, and you wouldn't even know that somebody has it. So then it can interface basically anywhere in your brain. So it could be something that helps cure, say, eyesight, like returns your eyesight, even if you've lost your optic nerve type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, obviously. Pretty much anything that it could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain, and it could restore limb functionality. So if you've got interface into the motor cortex, and then an implant that's that's like a microcontroller in your muscle groups, you could then create a sort of a neural shunt that restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality, like they can walk around, be normal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
maybe slightly better.
Slightly better
Over time, yes.
You mean with future iterations?
Yeah. Like the $6 million man. Although
right.
These days that doesn't
That's
seem like
cheap.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
$6 billion man.
Yeah.
So the hole would be small. How big would the hole be that you have to drill and then replace with this piece? It's only one hole?
Well, the device we're working on right now is about an inch in diameter. And your skull's pretty thick, by the way. So skulls are...
Mine is, for sure.
It might actually literally be. If you're a big guy, your skull is actually fairly thick. Skull's it's 7 to 14 millimeters.
Mm.
So
mine's probably a couple of inches.
A half inch, half inch thick skull-ish. So that's a fair bit of we got quite a coconut going on there. It's not like some eggshell.
Oh yeah, I believe you.
You basically implant the device.
And so it would be like a 1 inch square, or 1 inch in diameter.
Yeah,
so an inch circle, like a circular.
Yeah, I think like a smartwatch or something like that. Or
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take this 1 inch diameter, like ice fishing, right? You ever go ice fishing?
No, but I'd like to.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
So you basically take an auger and you drill through the surface of the ice.
Yeah.
And you create a small hole, and
Yep.
you can dunk your line in there. So this is like that. You're ice fishing on the top of your skull, and then you cork it.
Yeah, and you replace that, say, 1 inch diameter piece of skull with this Neuralink device, and that has a battery and a Bluetooth and a inductive charger. And then you also got to insert the electrodes. So the electrodes are very carefully inserted with our robot that we developed. It's very carefully putting in the electrodes and avoiding any veins or arteries. So it doesn't create trauma.
So through this 1 inch diameter device, electrodes be inserted, and they will find their way...
Like tiny wires, basically.
Tiny wires.
Tiny wires.
And they'll find their way to specific areas of the brain to stimulate?
No, you literally put them where they're supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should insert
How long will these wires be?
They usually go in depending on where it is, 2 or 3 millimeters.
So they just find the spots.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then then you put the device in, and that gets that replaces the little piece of skull that was taken out, and then you stitch up the hole, and then you just have a little scar, and that's it.
Will
And
this
then
be replaceable or reversible?
Yes.
Like if someone can't take it
Yeah,
anymore?
yeah,
I'm too smart. I can't take it.
Yeah, you can totally take it out.
And what is besides restoring limb function and eyesight and hearing, which are all amazing, is there any cognitive benefits that you anticipate from something like this?
Yeah, I mean, you could for sure. I mean, basically, it's a generalized sort of thing for fixing any kind of brain injury. In principle, like if you've got like severe epilepsy or something like that, it could just sort of stop the epilepsy from occurring. Like it could detect it in real time and then fire a counter pulse and stop the epilepsy. I mean, there's a whole range of brain injuries. Like somebody gets a stroke, they could lose the ability to speak. That could also be fixed. So if you've got like stroke damage, or if you lose, say, muscle control over part of your face or something like that, I think. And then when you get old, you tend to, if you get like, Alzheimer's or something like that, then you lose memory, and this could help you with, restoring your memory, that kind of thing.
Restoring memory. And what is happening that's allowing it to do that? Like the wires, these small wires, are stimulating these areas of the brain, and then is it that the areas of the brain they're losing some sort of electrical force? Like what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like think of it as like a bunch of circuits, and there's some like circuits that are broken, and we can like fix those circuits. It's a substitute for those circuits.
And so a specific frequency will go through this.
Yeah, just
specific in that is the process figuring out how much or how little has to be, how much these areas of the brain have to be juiced up.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. So when I say, we got a shot at probably putting it in a person in, within a year, I think that's exactly what I mean. I think we have a chance of putting in someone and having them be healthy and restoring some functionality that they've lost.
The fear is that eventually you're gonna have to cut the whole top of someone's head off and put a new top with a whole bunch of wires if you want to get, the real turbocharged version, the P100D of brain stimulation.
I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that.
Symbiosis is a scary word when it comes to AI.
It's optional.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, once you enjoy the Dr. Manhattan lifestyle, once you become a god, seems very, very unlikely you're going to want to go back to being stupid again. I mean, you literally could fundamentally change the way human beings interface with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
You wouldn't need to talk.
I'm so scared of that, but so excited about it at the same time. Is that weird?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the paths to, like think like what are like AI is getting better and better. So now let's assume it's sort of like a benign AI scenario. Even in a benign scenario, we're kind of left behind. We're not along for the ride. We're just too dumb.
Right.
So how do you go along for the ride? It's like if you can't beat them, join them. So, and we're already a cyborg to some degree, right? Because you've got your phone, you've got your laptop,
glasses.
You got your electronic devices.
Yeah.
I mean, today, if your phone, if you don't bring your phone along, it's like you have missing limb syndrome. It's like feels like something's really missing. So we're already partly a cyborg, or an AI symbiote, essentially. It's just that the data rate to the electronics is slow. So, especially output, like you're just going with your thumbs. I mean, like, what's your data rate? Maybe optimistically 100 bits per second. That's being generous. And now the computer can communicate at like, 100 terabits. So certainly, gigabits are trivial at this point. So this is like, basically your computer could do things a million times faster. Or you're at a certain point, it's like the AI is like talking to a tree. Okay, this is boring. You talk to a tree. It's not very entertaining. So if you can solve the data rate issue and especially output but input too, then you can improve the symbiosis that is already occurring between man and machine.
So you can improve it in when you said you won't have to talk to each other anymore. We used to joke around about that. I've joked around about that a million times on this podcast, that one day in the future there's going to come a time where you can read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And
well,
you'll be able to interface with each other in some sort of a non-verbal, non-physical way where you will transfer data back and forth to each other without having to actually use your mouth and make noises.
Exactly. So what happens when let's say you've got some complex idea that you're trying to convey to somebody else, and how do you do that? Well, your brain spends a lot of effort compressing a complex concept into words, and there's a lot of loss, information loss that occurs when compressing a complex concept into words. And then you say those words are then interpreted, then they're decompressed by the person who is listening, and they will at best get a very incomplete understanding of what you're trying to convey. It's very difficult to convey a complex concept with precision because you've got compression, decompression. You may not even have heard all the words correctly, and so communication is difficult. What we have here is a failure to communicate. It's Cool Aunt Luke.
Yes, and there's a great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
And there's an interpretation factor too. Like you can choose to interpret certain series of words in different ways, and they're dependent upon tone, dependent upon social cues, even facial expressions, sarcasm. There's a lot of variables.
Sarcasm is difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've said is like that there could be potentially a universal language that's created through computers that particularly young kids would pick up very quickly. Like my kids do TikTok and all this jazz, and I don't know what they're doing. They just know how to do it, and they know how to do it really quickly. Like they learn really quickly, and they show me how to edit things. And it's if you taught a child from first grade on how to use some new universal language, I mean, essentially like a Rosetta Stone, and something that's done that interprets your thoughts, and you can convey your thoughts with no room for interpretation, with clear, very clear, where you know what a person's saying, and you can tell them what you're saying, and there's no need for noises, no need for mouth noises, no need for these sort of accepted ways that we've sort of evolved to make sounds that we all agree. We through our cultural dictionary and we agree or certain we could bypass all that.
Yeah, I mean, you can still do it for
fun,
sentimental reasons,
right? Like campfires.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need campfires. You don't need to roast marshmallows, but it's kind of fun,
right?
I think you would, in principle, be able to communicate very quickly and with far more precision ideas. And language would, I'm not sure what would happen to language. But you could probably, in a situation like this, that you would be able to it would be kind of like the Matrix. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
Just wire it, we'll just download the program.
Whew. Right. So at least for the first few iterations, we'll just be able to use, like, I know that Google has their some of their pixel buds have the ability to interpret languages in real time? Like,
Sure.
Yeah, you can hear it, and it'll play things back to you in whatever language you choose. So to be something along those lines
Yeah.
for the first few iterations.
Well, the first few iterations are, I mean, what I'm talking about is like in the limit over time, with a lot of development. The first few iterations, really in the first few versions, all we're going to be trying to do is solve brain injuries. So it's like, don't worry that it's not going to sneak up on you. This will take a while.
How many years before you don't have to talk?
If the development continues to accelerate, then maybe like 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
That's quick. That's really quick.
That's the best case scenario.
No talking anymore in 5 years.
Best case scenario. But 10 years more like it.
I've always speculated that aliens could potentially be us in the future, because if you look at like the size of their heads and the fact that they have very little muscle and they don't use their mouth anymore, they have this tiny little. I mean, the archetypal alien that you see in like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they're like if you went from like Australopithecus or ancient hominid to us, what's the difference? Less hair, less muscle, bigger head, and then you just keep going. 1,000, 1,000,000, whatever year, or 5 years, whatever happens when Neuralink goes online, and then we slowly start to adapt to this new way of being, where we don't use our muscles anymore. We have this gigantic head. We can talk without words.
You could also save state. And
Save state?
Save state, like save your brain state, like a saved game in a video game.
Whoa. like if you want to swap from Windows 95
Well,
to like
yeah,
you.
hopefully a little better than that, but yeah.
I think we are Windows 95 right now.
From a future perspective, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could save state and restore that state into a biological being if you wanted to in the future. In principle, there's like nothing like from a physics standpoint that prevents us. Now you'd be a little different, but then you're also a little different when you wake up in the morning from yesterday, and you're a little different. In fact, if you say like you 5 years ago versus you today, is quite a big difference.
Yes.
So you'd be substantially you. I mean, you'd certainly think you're you.
But the idea of saving yourself and then transforming that into some sort of a biological state, like you could hang out with 30-year-old you.
I mean, the possibilities are endless.
That's so weird.
I mean, just think like how your phone you can record videos on your phone. Like, there's no way you could remember a video
Right.
as accurately as your phone or a camera, could. So, now if you've got like some version 10 Neuralink, whatever, far in the future, you could recall everything, just like it's a movie.
Crystal clear.
Including the entire sensory experience,
Emotions, everything,
and play it back.
Do you think you'll be able to
you
share?
can edit it.
Edit it.
Yeah,
So you can change your past?
you could change what you think was your past. Yeah,
Well, so if you had like
this
a traumatic
whole thing
experience,
right now could be a replayed memory.
it could be.
Yeah.
It may be. What's the odds of this being a replayed memory? If you had to guess. It's more than 50%.
There's no way to assign a probability with accuracy here.
Right, but roughly. If you just had just gut instinct.
Well, I don't have a Neuralink in my brain, so I'd say right now 0%. But at the point at which you do have a Neuralink, then it rises above 0%.
The idea that we're experiencing some sort of a preserved memory is, even though it's still the same, it's not comforting, right? For some reason, when people talk about simulation theory, they talk about the potential for this currently being a simulation. Even though your life might be wonderful, you might be in love, you might love your career, you might have great friends, but it's not comforting to know that this experience somehow or another doesn't exist in a material form that you can knock on
Feels real, doesn't it?
Feels real, but if it's not, but the idea that it's not is for some strange reason disconcerting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it should be disconcerting, because then if this is not real, what is?
Right.
But the there's that old sort of thought experiment of like, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Right now, here's the thing: you are a brain in a vat. Then that vat is your skull.
Yes.
And everything you see, feel, hear, everything, all your senses are electrical signals. Everything is an electrical signal to a brain in a vat, where the vat is your skull.
And all your hormones, all your neurotransmitters, all these things are drugs. Adrenaline's a drug. Dopamine's a drug. Sure. You're a drug factory. You're constantly changing your state with love and oxytocin and beauty.
Sure.
Changes your state. Great music changes your state.
Absolutely. And here's another sort of interesting idea, which is, because you say, like, where did consciousness arise? Well, assuming you believe the belief in physics, which appears to be true, then the universe started off as basically quarks and leptons, and it quickly became hydrogen and helium, lithium, like basically elements of the periodic table, but it was like mostly hydrogen, basically. And then over a long period of time, 13.8 billion years later, that hydrogen became sentient. So where along the way where is consciousness? What's the line of consciousness and not consciousness between hydrogen and here?
Right. When do we call it? When do we call it consciousness? Yeah. I was watching a video today that we played on a podcast earlier of a monkey riding a motorcycle down the street, jumps off the motorcycle and tries to steal a baby.
Yeah, I saw that one. They went viral.
What is that monkey conscious? It seems like it is. It seems like it had a plan. It was riding a fucking motorcycle and then jumped off the motorcycle to try to steal a baby. Seems pretty...
The one that just dragged the baby down the street pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty conscious. Right?
There's definitely some degree of consciousness there.
Yeah, it's not a worm. It seems to be on another level. Yeah. And it's going to keep going. And that's the real concern when people think about the potential future versions of human beings, especially when you consider symbiotic relationship to artificial intelligence, it will be unrecognizable. That one day we'll be so far removed from what this is. We'll look back on this the way we look back now on, simple organisms that we evolved from. And then it won't be that far in the future that we do have this view back.
Well, I hope consciousness propagates into the future and gets more sophisticated and complex, and that it understands the questions to ask about the universe.
Do you think that's the case? As a human being, as yourself, you're clearly trying to make conscious decisions to be a better version of you, right? This is the idea of like getting rid of your possessions and realizing that you're trying to, like, I don't like this. I will try to improve this. I would try to do a better version of the way I interface with reality. That this is always the way things are. If you're moving in some sort of a direction where you're trying to improve things, you're always going to move into this new place where you look back in the old place and go, I was doing it wrong back then. So this is an accelerated version of that, a super accelerated version of that.
I mean, you don't always improve, but you can aspire to improve. You can aspire to be less wrong. Yeah. This is like, I think the tools of physics are very powerful. Like, just assume you're wrong and your goal is to be less wrong. I don't think you're going to, if succeed every day in being less wrong, but, if you're going to succeed in being less wrong, most of the time you're doing great. That's a great way of putting it. Aspire to be less wrong. Mm-hmm. But then when, people look back in nostalgia about simpler times, there's that too. It's very romantic and exciting to look back on campfires. But you can still have a campfire. Yes. Yeah. But will you appreciate it when you're a super nerd, when you're connected to the grid and you have some skull cap in place of the top of your head and it's interfacing with the international language that the rest of the universe now enjoys communication with people?
and we're
Yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah, I like campfires.
Anyway, I talked to David for 4 hours. Yeah, why did I bring that up? Because
David Fravor. You were talking. Let's explain who David Fravor was.
Yeah.
He's a fighter jet pilot for the Navy, and he discovered a UFO off the coast of San Diego that, when they tracked it, went from 60,000 feet to 1 feet in a second or less. They don't know how fast it went because it's the blip of a radar. But the thing traveled in an insane way that defies all of our understanding of propulsion, all of our understanding of physics. And this thing also actively was blocking their tracking systems, which is an act of war. If if the Soviet Union or China was doing that, that's technically an act of war. So this thing was doing something that showed that it was intelligently aware of the fact that they are using tracking devices to try to lock in on it. And it behaved and moved in a way that defies all of our understandings of propulsion systems. It didn't give off any heat signature. And the people from the Navy that he was communicating with saying, yeah, we see these every now and again. We don't know what the fuck they are.
So the thing I was going to say, there's a lot of interesting things to say about this, but I just remembered that it felt like from that entire experience that because it didn't have a Chinese or a Russian flag on it, whatever he saw, is we tend to just the entire system doesn't want to acknowledge it. Like you don't know what to do with it. So they actually, most of like when you return back to the ship, and there's a bunch of pilots that that saw it. There's a lot of people that witnessed it, and then there's also the video. The majority of the people didn't know what to do with it. They just went on with their day like nothing happened. They kind of made fun of each other or whatever for yeah, sure, bro, you saw aliens, but like they didn't know how to comprehend it. That's what I meant. Like, if we encounter life from elsewhere in the universe, we think we would be as a population excited, but it feels like, just like with Bigfoot, we're excited by the mystery when they're just out of reach, but when they're like among us. There's so many mysteries and incredible things among us that we just kind of take them for granted.
Yeah.
And we don't even, or ignore them, actually, even worse. We ignore them.
We get used to things.
And that was the weird thing. The biggest mystery to me about what David Fravor saw, and then also with the other videos in 2014, something like that, the Go Fast, is like, it wasn't a bigger deal than I thought it would be.
Well, the big deal was when the Pentagon came out and said that they have recovered some vehicles that are not of this world. Now, they didn't expand on that. There hasn't been more conversation about that. But this is a purely speculation. My speculation is they are slowly spoon-feeding us information to allow people to be more comfortable with the inevitable arrival of something. If they believe that something's coming, they don't want it to happen all at once. You see what happens just with the pandemic. You see what happens with George Floyd. You see what happens with anytime there's a big shock to our system and there's chaos in the streets, it's unmanageable. And if the UFOs came in the middle of something like that, like Jesus Christ, like who the fuck knows what would go down? If I was someone who's in a position of power, I would say, listen, this information's going to get out. It's inevitable. So why don't we let people know now? Just give them, just in words, say, we have recovered crafts that are not of this world. Say something crazy like that. Print it in the New York Times, get it out there, and then slowly drip out more information. When they see these videos, they'll get more and more accustomed to it. And then eventually it'll be like masks. Like you walk down the street, everybody has a mask on. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, but, okay, so let me...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally... And this is such a fascinating question. If the government is in possession of an alien spacecraft, what is the right way to release that information?
The real problem is if it's more potent than any weapon that any civilization has currently on this planet. So if the United States is in control of this vehicle that is more potent and can do things that, like, if you really do have something that can go from 60,000 feet to 1 foot in under a second, that defies all of our understandings of speed. right? I mean, that's so fast. If you could do that,
Well, there's arguments against, because it could be human created technology too that's just 15, 20, 30 years out. Like the stealth bomber was developed secretly. So what defies, it's our perception of its movement capabilities is
Right.
what defies. But there could be some tricks on perception that, I mean, that's the whole point with a stealth bomber, is it's difficult to detect.
sure.
And so there could be same kind of tricks on perception, that you could just be playing different kinds of amazing secret human created technology that is able to deceive the human eye.
That's a good point. I mean, but the thing about it is they tracked it. It wasn't just that it was the human eye that saw this and it's deceptive, but also like the stealth bomber. You know, the way it's designed, it blocks radar, or radar doesn't catch onto it. I think it is possible that some human created technology that's so far advanced from anything that we're currently that we currently understand, like in terms of like mainstream propulsion experts and fighter pilots like David Fravor and military people, it is possible that some civilization, one of the big civilizations on this planet, whether it's China or Russia, has come up with something that's above and beyond what everybody knows. But it's not likely. It's not likely that they've made that much of a leap.
In your sense, on the other side, if it's alien technology, see, I'm more optimistic. To me, as a scientist and engineer, and actually David Fravor says this too, in this time of pandemic, in this time of like just hard negative news everywhere, there would be nothing more inspiring than the government in an inspiring, like Neil deGrasse Tyson way, coming out and saying we have, not releasing the videos like they did, which is, I don't know if you know, but they just put videos on the website. Like there's nothing. It's just videos. It's just like with like some boring documents that describe like nothing. They're not inspiring. We're not talking about like Neil deGrasse Tyson or like Carl Sagan Cosmos style, like a beautiful, inspiring. What is more inspiring than an alien spacecraft? Look, there's a fascinating mystery here. There's nothing more inspiring to us humans than that there's life out there, intelligent life out there.
But how would you handle it? Like, let's imagine you are the leader of the United States, and you find out, or whatever, the head of the Navy military intelligence program, whoever you are, you're a person that's in a position where you realize that this thing is from another world, and you have this responsibility to try to somehow or another publicize this.
Yeah,
like
I would approach it 100% from the perspective of science. Here's a mystery. So forget weapon. Like you mentioned, there's this inclination to think like, how can I figure out a way to use this as a weapon to destroy Russia or China, as opposed to seeing it like going to Mars, colonizing Mars, or going to the moon originally. There is some competitive element, but mostly it's a human pursuit of understanding and human pursuit of overcoming our limited knowledge to sort of unlock mysteries of this universe. From a physics perspective, from an engineering perspective, I would release all the information I have and release it in a way that gets the Neil deGrasse Tyson folks in the loop. So it's almost like an inspiring effort for us as a humanity to understand what the hell this thing is, versus let's keep it secret and see if we can use it as a weapon.
Well, I appreciate that you think that way, because you're a scientist and you're thinking about it in a very positive way to try to expand our education and our understanding of this thing, and maybe we could use it for good. But you got to realize that anything that surpasses any and all technologies that we currently enjoy in terms of fighter pilots and jets and military superiority, if there's something that just is above and beyond all, if everybody has a Model T and you have a Ferrari, or better yet, you have a Tesla, you have a Model S, and everybody's got a Model T, and you're in a race. Like, you have something that is so far above and beyond what everybody else has. It's not really a fair race. It's a joke. You'll dominate. If you have a Model T and the other person has a Tesla, and you're racing, and the winner gets to decide who has all the food, who gets all the women, who lives in the nice house, like, you're gonna win every fucking time, right? Now, if you have a UFO, if you have a spaceship that comes from another planet where they're 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, they've had 1,000,000 years of evolution and technological evolution, dealing with elements that are common on their planet that have to be created on a particle collider here, and they only exist for a brief amount of time. If they have something like that that's powered by something that we can't even imagine, and you figure out how to use that here on Earth, you'll have technological superiority over every other civilization,
but
every
here's the
other
thing.
country.
In that technological superiority, it's so funny us chimps are like still talking about our village. We want our village to be better than the next village. When there's an alien civilization that's 1,000,000 years more advanced, that can easily destroy us if it wanted to, or actually understands the nature of existence in this universe on levels that are like we chimps talk about, like meditation and finding inner peace. Like it understands on such a deeper level, like the nature of consciousness, the nature of intelligence, the meaning of life, all that weird stuff that we're so obsessed with. It understands at another level. And here we are thinking about what the Russians are doing versus like understanding that mystery. I think in the face of that mystery of something that's far more intelligent than us, I think we can't. It's a ridiculous notion to think we're anything but one human village. And in terms of weapons, because you said like get all the girls or whatever, I think the weapons thing is the key thing. And we already, at least the major nations, have all the weapons we need to destroy each other. It's like we don't need extra weapons. It feels like your hypothesis would be like if an alien technology was here and we'd figure it out, we'd be able to have something that destroys other chimp villages an order of magnitude more efficiently than nuclear weapons, thereby having an asymmetrical, sort of from a game theory perspective, power over other nations. And we can tell China what to do. We can tell Russia what to do. That's the perspective from which they're thinking. I'm
not even saying that they're thinking that way. I'm thinking a human would think that if they had control of this vehicle. I'm not saying that the aliens would think this way. I'm thinking also that we are constantly innovating. When you talk to people that are designing jets and planes and fighter pilots, and they're talking about new systems that they've created and new weapons, they don't just sit back and say we have enough weapons to destroy Russia and China and the rest of the world combined, so we're just going to stop. This is not how human beings innovate. Human beings are in this constant state of wanting the newest, greatest innovations. We want to improve upon every single existing invention until we hit some sort of singularity point or whatever the fuck we're striving for as a culture. And that would be that propulsion system. If you do really have something that can go from 60,000 feet to 1 foot in less than a second, you're dealing with something that we don't understand. We can't do that right now. And if you could figure out how to do that and propel people that quickly, it would be a game changer. Now, how much of a game changer? What does that mean? Well, we're in this weird place where we kind of agree to not use our best weapons, right? Like when there's a face-off between the United States jets and a Russian jet, and they come close to each other, like over China or something like that. It's weird because we're not shooting at each other, but we're real close. And even the missiles that we have, they're not nuclear. Like but we're involved in a skirmish with another country. But we don't use all our weapons. Like if we approached war the way people approached war in the Middle Ages, we would just nuke the fuck out of everybody that talks shit, right? Yeah. Anybody, what did China just say? What did they just say? Fucking launch those missiles. Fuck those people.
Instead of Twitter, it'd be nukes. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're already in this place where we don't use our best stuff. So if we had something that made us fly better and fly faster, the real question is, how much would that change the world? I don't know how much it would. If we got in control of some UFO and we're able to get to China quicker, how much of a difference would that make in terms of like the way they responded to our military? We're in this position now where there's multiple countries that have the ability to destroy other countries. There's Iran has some sort of a nuclear program. Pakistan has a nuclear program. India has a nuclear program. Of course, the United States, Russia, China. There's many countries that have the ability to fucking wipe out huge numbers of the population like that. Just launch. Just one crazy, psychotic leader who just decides to just, listen, we're going to fucking make our mark here. Everybody together on 1, 2, 3, go. Boom. I had a thought once while I was under the influence, and it was a thought that one day computational powers will reach a point where they will be able to take into consideration all of the objects on Earth and what we know about the history and vividly recreate the past through computation, to the point where you could actually know who did what, when people did things, and that, I don't even know if this would be physical. Today, certainly not be possible, but with the exponential increase in computational power and technology and innovation, that one day we'll reach a point where you'll be able to watch, you'll be able to see what happened, and they'll be able to recreate what happened exactly. And that this would be something that would be, it's impossible for us to imagine that someone would be able to do that right now.
Yeah.
But that one day with technology, as it gets more and more advanced, we will reach some sort of some innovation or some sort of an invention that will allow us to go back and literally see what happened, how things were done.
Technology is changing our whole understanding of the past, and what you're envisaging is perfectly possible. We will come to a time, if we
100
don't,
years, 500 years.
perhaps less, if we don't, first destroy ourselves entirely as a civilization, we will come to a time where our cleverness and our techniques will allow a much wider opening up of the past than has presently happened. But it is already happening. One of the areas of science that I go into in America before is genetics and DNA. This is an area of science that was not much informing archaeology until about the 1990s, but since the 2000s has become very important in archaeology, because the technology has been developed where ancient DNA can be extracted and tested, and you can actually genotype an entire individual from DNA that may be 15, 20,000 years old. And this new technology of genome sequencing and DNA is another factor that is raising huge question marks over the past of the Americas. And one of the issues I go into in this book is the presence in the Amazon rainforest of a very specific, clearly identifiable pattern of DNA, which is only found in one other place in the world, and that is in Australasia, in Papua New Guinea, and amongst Australian Aborigines. It's Australasian DNA. Now,
in South America.
Not only in South America, but in the depths of the Amazon rainforest, amongst tribes who've only been contacted in the last 20 or 30 years. And furthermore, although skeletal remains are rare, it has been found in ancient skeletal remains that are close to 11,000 years old in the Amazon. So that tells us that this DNA signal has been in the Amazon for at least 11,000 years. The geneticists think that it came to the Amazon during the last ice age. And this raises a huge mystery, because the peopling of the Americas is supposed to have occurred from Siberia, across the Bering Straits, down through that ice-free corridor into North America, down through North America, into South America, into Central America, and finally into South America. If that was the whole story, then we would find this DNA signal in North America and in Central America. We would not find it only in the Amazon. When I talked to some of the leading geneticists about this, specifically Professor Eske Willerslev at the University of Copenhagen, who's been the lead author in a number of major studies of ancient DNA. And I asked him, what do you make of this Australasian DNA in the Amazon? And he said, honestly, we don't have a proper explanation for it at the moment. But what he did say is that the most parsimonious explanation, he used that specific word, the most parsimonious explanation is that a group of people during the Ice Age crossed the Pacific Ocean and settled up and ended up in South America and settled in the Amazon and brought their DNA with them. That would account perfectly for the DNA data. And when a scientist says the most parsimonious explanation, what that scientist is saying is he likes that explanation, that it's a simple, direct, clear explanation of the DNA mystery. But then he added, however, it doesn't make practical sense. And I asked him, well, why doesn't it make practical sense? And he said, because the archaeologists tell me that no human population was capable of crossing the Pacific Ocean during the Ice Age, at which point it was natural for me to say, do you really trust the archaeologists? And he said, well, in science, we do trust the work of other scientists. We don't really question it. We don't really investigate it. That's their side of the business. And my view is that is rather than taking this weird, anomalous Australasian DNA signal in the heart of the Amazon as something to be explained away and as something to be for it to be denied that it could be connected to a voyage across the Pacific Ocean. Maybe it's the first compelling evidence that voyages were taking place across the Pacific Ocean during the Ice Age. And maybe we should be opening up that whole issue for exploration. And again, I think a lost civilization is the best answer. And that near the end of the Ice Age, when the Younger Dryas cataclysm unfolds, it's not an overnight thing. It's very bad 12,800 years ago. There's about 1,200 years of horror. I don't think the civilization went down in a single day and night. I think there were survivors. I think bits of it were left. I think their project was to restart civilization. And I suggest very strongly that where they tried to mount that project was amongst the hunter-gatherers who coexisted in the world with them at that time. We ourselves are an advanced civilization, at least that's what we call ourselves, and we coexist in the world with hunter-gatherers. It's not an odd idea that an advanced civilization and hunter-gatherers should coexist, and there is separation between us and the Amazonian hunter-gatherers. There are tribes in the Amazon that are uncontacted and that we don't know even exist. If a catastrophe on the level of the Younger Dryas were to occur today, I don't think that our civilization would make it through. We are the spoilt children of the earth. We are just used to having everything laid on. You know, the supermarket shelves are groaning with food. We can get food delivered to our homes. We have roofs over our head. We have shelters. We have clothing. Everything is taken for granted. I guess you're an exception, but very few people in modern Western culture know how to survive. They don't have survival skills. They don't know how to hunt. They don't know how to gather. They don't know how to grow crops because they've handed that responsibility over to others. We live in a society that's highly segmented and specialized, and different people specialize in different things, but nobody has the vast general survival skill that a hunter-gatherer has. So in a global cataclysm, actually, at first counterintuitively, the people who would survive it would be the hunter-gatherers. And an advanced civilization would be smart if there were survivors to seek refuge amongst hunter-gatherers, to make that the place where they might try to restart their civilization. And that's why I think that this Australasian DNA signal in the Amazon may be part of the evidence for a sort of outreach effort that was being made by a lost civilization, seeing the disaster coming down on it and realizing that something needed to be done.
Many people have a concern that someone else is going to do what we're not willing to do first.
Yes.
Right? They're worried. China and Russia.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones. China and Russia.
Especially China.
Yeah. They're very technologically advanced.
Yep.
And their innovations off the chain. When it comes to, like, Huawei just recently surpassed Apple as the number 2 cell phone manufacturer in the world. 5 years ago, they had a single-digit share of the marketplace. Now they're number 2 on the planet Earth. I mean, they hustle. And if they just decide to make super people and they do it before we do, that's what people were worried about, right? They're worried about, there's trivial things or seemingly trivial like athletics. And then there's things that are really, like what's to stop people from just becoming the Hulk? What's to stop people from becoming immortal? What's to stop, is...
Well, 2 questions. First is China, because I think it's a really big issue. The story of the 21st century, one of the biggest stories of the 21st century will be how the U.S.-China rivalry plays out And the playing field will be with these revolutionary technologies. And China has a national plan to lead the world in these technologies by 2050. They're putting huge resources. They have really smart people they are really focused on. And it's a big deal.
Yeah.
In genetic technologies, when last year my book Hacking Darwin was already in production in November when it was announced that these first genetically engineered babies had been born in China. And so I called the publisher and said, we need to pull this back out of production because I need to reference this. But it didn't require much of a change because I'd already written, this is happening. We're going to see the world's first gene-edited humans. It's going to happen first in China, and here's why. So I just had to add a few sentences saying, and it just happened in October of 2018. So China is on that path. And we need to recognize that on one hand, the United States needs to be competitive. On the other hand, we don't want a runaway arms race of the human race. And that's why we need to find this balance between national ambition and some kind of global rules. But that's really hard to do.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we're competing with them.
Yeah.
And so if they decide to do it first, we're almost compelled to do it second, or compelled to try to keep up.
Yeah.
How far away do you think we are from physically manipulating living human beings versus fetuses versus something in the womb?
So physically manipulating living human beings, we're there.
We're there.
Yeah. So often it's called gene therapy. So, for example, there's a whole class of treatments for treating cancer called CAR T therapy. So you have a cancer. When you're younger, your body is better able to fight cancers. What you can do with someone with a cancer, you take their cells, you manipulate their cells to give them cancer-fighting superpowers, and you put them back into the person's body. And now the person's body behaves like you're a younger person. You have the ability to fight back. So gene therapies are already happening. A relatively small number of them have already been approved. But there is a list of thousands of them with regulators, in applications to regulators around the world. So the era of making genetic changes to living humans, that's already here.
Like, what can they do with it so far?
So far, most of it is focused on treating diseases. But a lot more is coming, because when people think about the genome, our genome isn't a disease genome. It's not a healthcare genome. It's a human genome. And so we are going to be able to do things that feel like crazy things, like changing people's eye color, changing people's skin color to funky things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're not doing now that we will be able to do.
Great.
While you're saying that sound.
Great. I'm glad that people are seeing me.
Neil Brennan signing.
As witness, everyone will be a notary public.
I wonder if they can. There's a software that can listen to the sound your pen is making and figure out the lines you're drawing. You know, they have technology now where when people are speaking in a room with a window,
they can get rid of the window noise.
They can tune into the vibrations of the window from the sound of your voice and pick up everything that's being said in the room.
I heard that there's a Netflix, because before, Netflix doesn't give people ratings, but there's a way that they can gauge reflections off of some weird fucking technology and it's fairly accurate.
Reflections off of windows?
Yes, this is secondhand, yeah. Like secondhand, I believe it's sound waves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are they monitoring? Jamie's got something.
I have no idea. Jamie.
What do you got,
We
Jamie?
can buy this right now if you want.
Jamie.
Long-range laser listening device. The long-range laser listening device, laser microscope, is a highly sophisticated surveillance apparatus that utilizes an invisible infrared laser beam to eavesdrop on a target. This is the most effective long-range laser listening device in the world that allows the operator to conduct an undetectable surveillance operation on any targeted room.
From Tony Stark Industries.
With at least one window at an impressive distance of over 500 meters. That is actually very impressive.
That's far.
That's far as shit with the laser beam. Fuck. And you can just buy that?
As I say, that's commercially available, and I wonder what is not commercially available.
Oh, for sure.
Is
right
out there.
Like, you remember when there was that story about some weird sound weapon they think that the Cubans were using on Americans that were in Cuba? There's probably a bunch of shit like that.
I was reading an article. They can list, like submarines have technology. They can listen to basically like fish farting in the ocean if they wanted to. They can hear sounds that quiet. They can hear anything. So if like literally a fish farts, they're like, "Oh, what was that? What was that? Was that a sub? Nope, it was a fish." Next.
Wow.
Like, what was the next sound? Yeah.
Good for us or something.
I guess.
Good for somebody.
Good for us, I guess.
Yeah, the sound thing was funny because it was like people would get sick.
Yeah.
And they could, and then there was also, they did it in China too. There were like, at American civil, like NG, like non-government, or like kind of work for the government tangentially, or they worked at the embassy. Their apartments were above each other, two separate people, and both of them. It was on 60 Minutes, like not long ago. Like,
So they targeted the rooms.
yeah,
It's like a dog whistle for people.
yes, in essence. And it's like, well, what do you want me to do? I guess you just leave. I guess it is like a dog whistle. Where
Yeah,
it's
they
just
just want you to feel like
disperse.
shit.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, there's probably a ton of technology like that we're not aware of. My friend Mike Swick used to fight in the UFC, and before that, he did a brief stint in the military. He was doing something, some sort of it was either Secret Service work or something along those lines. But anyway, he was at the embassy in Russia. And he said that they had found listening devices that were so sophisticated that they were being powered by the natural sway of the building.
Wow.
With the wind. So the wind, they didn't need a power source. The natural swaying of the building in the wind was powering up this little microphone that was listening in on things. And he said they were looking at this stuff and they're like, we don't know anything like this. Like, this is completely new stuff, and we found it in this building.
I don't love, but it's like,
It's kinda cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't kill me or us. You know what I mean? Like, the hope is we just they have their thing and we have, and it's just like mutually assured destruction, like an arms race of technology. Because that's what's going to happen. Do you use the cloud?
Yes. I know. Yeah.
Like,
I don't use it for important stuff.
Yeah.
But I use it for like my apps.
yeah.
You know, my apps are backed up in the cloud. Recordings are backed up in the cloud. Sets that I'm doing.
But there's like
notes are backed up.
photos or video. It's just a bit
Not
like,
much.
I don't know, man.
It's fucking crazy. I mean, we're getting down to some very strange place with the cloud, with stuff being just in the air.
And the amount of trust it takes, the presumption that we'll just never run out of energy and we'll never run out of the ability to tap into the cloud is like, that seems presumption. I'm not even like a doomsday person, but I just feel like it's like the difference between how men dress in public and how women dress. Like on a night out, women are wearing heels and guys are dressed in case they have to fight. I'm still like, we will do the thing in the mirror. We're like, I'll fuck you up. And like, that's how I feel with technology, where I'm like, what, do I have a backup plan for this? Even people with like Wi-Fi door locks, I'm like, I don't know, man.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Not good. If the Wi-Fi goes out, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, like, please be careful. I don't know what the negative scenario is, but even my garage at my place, and I live in like a townhouse thing, and there was a power outage, the gate won't open, and like,
there's no release.
There was a release that somebody, a better person than I, figured out. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, no, I can't come. I was like, hello, Uber. I didn't have a fucking plan, but someone figured out, like, you open a hatch and then there's a chain and you got to pull the chain, and it was like, okay, but it wasn't. It wasn't easy,
right?
Like, it's the doomsday thing. It's like,
well, this guy, Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
This guy's been on my show several times, and he was just on recently, and he's one of the main proponents of this theory that something somewhere around 12,800 years ago hit the Earth and fucked up everything and probably reset civilization, killed off the vast majority of us.
12,000 years ago. That's not that long ago.
Not that long ago at all.
No.
It corresponds with the end of the Ice Age. There's a lot of physical evidence for it. And increasingly, we're seeing more and more evidence in terms of ancient cultures that existed far before 12,800 years ago that they really didn't understand. They thought people were just hunter-gatherers back then. Now they're finding evidence of things like, there's a place called Göbekli Tepe, which is these huge monolithic structures that are made out of stone, carved, like huge columns that don't seem like they were made by hunter-gatherers. It seems like there was probably some sort of a lost civilization, and they know that this all happened some
somewhere around that time, somewhere around 12,000 years ago. So it can happen again. And if it does happen again, all our stuff is on digital now, which is even weirder. It's weirder than books, right? We have books, but the vast majority of most of the data that we all keep and share, we share on phones and on computers.
Yeah.
And we can't read it. We can't read it without programs.
I don't know
without
the
software.
first thing about. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about.
But back to your core point, I mean, that's the reason why I also write science fiction, is that the world of science is changing so fast that we really need to apply a lot of imagination to imagine where it's going. Because if you're just looking at what's happening now, it's like this train is going to speed by you. We have to kind of imagine. It's like Wayne Gretzky. We have to imagine where the puck is going to be, not where it is now. And I mentioned George Church, he's at Harvard. He's like the living Charles Darwin. And I do a lot of speaking alongside George. And it's become our little thing that he says that he reads science fiction like mine, and then imagine and says, well, that's pretty cool. How can we do that? And what I do is I look at the research coming out of labs like George's, and I say, all right, well, that's where we are now. What's that going to mean in 20, 50, 100 years? And so we have to, the science fiction plays a more important role than it ever has in kind of imagining where we're going. And it's that imagining that allows us to try to say, well, what if that's one of the options of where we're going? What are the decisions that we need to make now so that we can have a better outcome rather than a worse one?
If you're a gambling person, I don't know if you are, but if I had to give you $100 to put on something in 20 years that's going to be profoundly just change, it's going to change us in a way that is something that we're not really prepared to understand or deal with. What do you think that's going to be?
I think it's going to be predictive genetics. That we're going to have all, right now, it's like you go to your doctor when you're sick. This could have been some genetic disorder that you had from the moment you were conceived.
And it was ticking.
And you showed up 50 years later when that's been manifest. So it's going to be very different. You're taking your kid home from the hospital, your newborn. And the doctor says, hey, congratulations, this is really great. But just FYI, your kid has a 50% greater than average chance of getting early onset Alzheimer's 50 years from now. And your kid has a really great chance of being phenomenal at abstract math. Like, how are we going to think about that? How are we going to think about what it means to be human when we have all of that information? And there are things now that we call fate. And it's just a different model. And so I think that, and once we have that, that's going to change a lot of things. It's going to fundamentally transform our healthcare. What we call healthcare now is really sick care. You show up with a symptom. And this is going to be predictive. And it's going to change the way we make babies, because people are going to have real choices about which embryos to implant, and we're going to have a lot of information about a lot of really intimate stuff.
So you feel like genetic manipulation and genetic engineering, genetic understanding, genetic knowledge, and then applied genetic medicine.
Yes.
Those are going to be the big changes in the next 20 years, even more so than technology.
Well, it's interconnected, because it's like a super convergence of these technologies. So the genetics revolution is the artificial intelligence revolution, in the sense that the complexity of genetics is so great. It's way beyond what our brains on their own could process. And so really, all these technologies are touching each other. And so the biological models are now influencing the AI. So for example, we are coming to the limits of silicon storage, but DNA has unlimited storage capacity. So it's as I've said before, the kind of the boundaries between biology and AI, or genetics and AI, is going to be very blurry.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept, right? The idea of storing information in DNA,
right.
And that has been discussed.
Yeah, well, DNA is the greatest information storage mechanism ever imagined.
But the question is, what happens when you do store things in there, and how does that information interact with all the rest of the stuff that's in your body already?
Well, I mean, if you can do it in your body, it doesn't have to be in your body. But just think of, like, your DNA has 4 billion years of history, and it's done a great job of recording it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like I have old 8-track tapes. They haven't lasted.
That is a squirrely concept that you have all that data inside your head. I mean, that's also when people when they try to understand instincts that people have, that these are some sort of genetically encoded memories or some understanding of things that are dangerous, and that they're in there because this is how we've learned over the years without actually having to experience these things personally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it's baked in.
Yeah.
Our genetics are baked into us. And so, I don't know if you've been to Indonesia before. I was in Indonesia, and I went to this place called Komodo Island.
Oh, wow. Where the dragons
It's
are?
the Komodo dragons are. And it was fascinating because it's like, you can tell they don't have plaintiff's attorneys. So you're just walking around. There are all these Komodo dragons. And so, these are like the most deadly creatures on earth. And there's like some little guy with a little stick. And it's like, well, how effective is that stick? But the way it works...
So you're just walking around?
You're just walking around. Because the Komodo dragons, when they're not killing people or killing animals, they're just sitting there.
Oh,
and so,
Jesus
so it's pretty scary.
Do they ever get jacked? Do people ever go there and get bitten?
Yes, and they say, it's only a few times a year. It's like, well, a few times a year, that seems like a lot.
A few times a year is a lot.
Anyway, but the way it works for a Komodo dragon, a mother lays the egg and then buries the egg and then forgets where the egg is. And then, let's just say that this egg hatches and this little Komodo dragon comes out, and the mother sees her own baby Komodo dragon. She'll eat it in a second.
Oh, Jesus.
And so if you're a Komodo dragon, you better have your entire survival strategy baked into your DNA, because nobody's teaching you anything. And so for us, we have this sense that it's like parenting is really important. It is. Environment is really important. It is. But so much of who and what we are is baked into our genetics. And I think that's going to be this challenge. We're going to see ourselves as increasingly genetic beings. We can't become genetic determinists, think that we're just genetics, but we're going to know a lot more. We're going to demystify a lot of what it means to be a human.
Poof.
Yeah. Poof is right.
But are we going to lose the romance and the just the randomness of life because of that?
Yeah.
That's what people are concerned with, right?
Yeah.
Like if we have some sort of genetic uniformity, I mean, especially in particular with things like intelligence and athletic performance, we're not going to appreciate freaks as much.
Yeah, or maybe we'll all want to be freaks because
we're
the
definitely
freaks,
all going to want to be
because the freaks are the ones who push us. And so
You're not going to want to be a moron.
Yeah, well, your question, it's the essential question. It's like, what makes a human? A human isn't just someone with higher IQ. That doesn't make you a better human. That makes you someone with a higher IQ. But how are we going to think about constructing societies when it's up to us? Like, if we are going to say we value certain people, certain ideas, I think we're going to need artists. Like right now, people like artists are sometimes in the mainstream, sometimes they're on the fringe, but artists are going to be maybe the most important people in this new world. And right now in hospitals, we have kind of a hierarchy, and like the most technical people are the people who are valued the most. And the least technical people, like some of the nurses or nurses' aides, are the people who are often valued and paid the least. But when technology can do these technological feats, what's going to be left is, how can we be great humans? How can we emote? How can we connect? How can we create art? And if we get swept away by this tide of science, and you know how excited I am about the science, but we could really undermine our humanity.
Right. And as for humans, what humans value is many aspects of that humanity, the art, the creations, the literature, things. We when you read someone's great prose, you're reading like an insight into their mind, and that's what's interesting about it, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
You're
not going to get that from just ones and zeros.
Yeah, and there will always be this, we call it mystery. And even if we can do a genetic analysis of Shakespeare and Mozart and whatever, like, it's still miraculous, and we need to celebrate that. And we can't allow us to say that we are just our genetics or even just our biology, but we also can't just say biology has nothing to do with it. And especially because we're going to know more about our biology and about our differences. And that's normal. I mean, it used to be in the old days that everyone thought, well, God is weather. And now we understand weather pretty much, and nobody's saying, oh, that lightning, that's God delivering a message. It could be, but we still have that mystery. Yeah. And I think that it's, in some ways, it's about our orientation. Like, how do we make sure that we keep this view of life, that we have artists and humanists who are just at the core of this conversation about where we're going.
What if that mystery ultimately turns out to just be ignorance, and that as you develop more and more understanding, there's less and less mystery? Would we like to be less smart? Would we like to be more overwhelmed by possibility? I mean,
it could be. I think
could
those
that be part of what romance is?
It could be, and certainly like the unknown. We wake up every morning, and we just don't know the answer. And there are some people, like going back to the issues of life extension. There are some people who say, well, that death is essential for appreciating life. I talk about this stuff all around. And then there are people who say, you're talking about eliminating these terrible diseases, but I know somebody who had that terrible disease, and their suffering was a gift to everybody else because we all had more humanity in response to their suffering. And I was like, well, that's kind of screwed up. I'd prefer them to not have that suffering, but
those people are thinking wacky.
It's wacky. But we need to, I totally agree with you that if we allow ourselves to get swept away with this kind of scientific determinism, if we don't say we really value our humanistic traditions, our artists, our cultures, we could get lost. And
we could become obsolete.
We could become obsolete, but we could also just become less human. And there's something wonderful, and there's magic.
But do you think that monkeys used to think, man, I can't become a human, we become less monkey?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
But no being looks in the mirror and recognizes that they are evolving. We've only been Homo sapiens for about 300,000 years.
Right.
So it's hard. We know where we've come from because you see all those little charts from high school biology. But it's really hard for people to imagine being something else in the future. It's outside of our consciousness. And so
it's H.G. Wells squared.
Yeah. And we are monkeys. It's just that we've redefined our monkey thing. We do it with in a little different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's cool. It's fun. I like where the movies is at right now.
I am worried that people are eventually going to all be living in some sort of a VR world.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's designed to move that way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you give people something and they're going to use it.
And they're going to get better.
Yeah.
They're gonna make a new one.
The
new one's going to have extra features.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, like, I get it. Like, fuck.
Have you fucked with any of that VR stuff?
Yeah, VR is awesome.
Do you ever do that? There's a thing outside of Disneyland where you there's a VR game that you go through. You go through like this little, like they have a giant room, right? And the room's set up for what was it called? The Void? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Holy shit.
The Void VR. And there's a Star Wars one and there's a Wreck-It Ralph one.
Okay.
And they're hilarious. I mean, you're walking around, you feel heat from fire. You pick up a plastic gun, you're shooting at stormtroopers. And
shit's crazy.
It's crazy. And while you're doing it, you're like, this is just step one.
Exactly.
This is going to be insane in 20 years.
They're just giving us pieces, like bits and pieces. Yeah. Like, they already have more.
You think that?
Oh, for sure.
Really?
100%.
I don't think that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because I think that what they're showing you right now is state of the art. They're selling it. It's the best, and it's in competition. And it's getting better and better all the time. But
that's a good way to look at it because they put it at my fault. I mean,
no worries, man. Yeah, I just think these people are very competitive.
Yeah,
the money is in getting the best shit out the quickest.
Okay,
and they're all competing with each other.
So they're putting out like the bootleg version and letting somebody smarter test it, work it, and make the better version. And they'll come back and do that later.
Well, that definitely happens too. I mean, that's what China does better than anybody. Yeah, they take some shit and just redo it.
I'd be feeling like. This is just my theory. Is like VR, right? It might be so fucking dangerous that they don't know like how it'll
let it out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they give us like little bits and pieces of it to like let us, they spoon feed it to us so they don't kill us. And the world just go crazy. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, because they probably tested it on somebody and they died like before. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they was like, oh shit, we went too far. It's like, hold on, let's like pull it back a little bit and just give them this. Like you said, give them this version of it. You know what I mean? But I feel like there's more.
Well, I think when you really don't know what the fuck is going on, that's with military stuff. I think military stuff like weapons and spaceships and aircrafts that they're developing. We don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're doing some shit that we have no idea.
Right.
But I think with things like consumer electronics, like technology, I think what you see is what you get. I think this is as good as they can do anything now. They're working on the newest, best shit.
Right.
You know, and that's coming around. They're always constantly in development. But
Right.
They're all competing against each other.
They
There's
just
no
don't
way
know.
they would hold anything back.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Damn. I feel like there's a phone that charges in 2 seconds. It's like, okay, if
No
you're
way, you have it out.
If you're in a war,
Right.
and your cellular device goes down, it's like you can't plug it in and charge it. It has to like happen quick, right?
Right.
So like they have that, in my opinion. They just don't give it to us.
But that all that stuff, I can see your argument because you're in a war. They might have better batteries like that the military develops or
Right.
some new kind of battery. That's possible. But there's so much money in batteries. Like there's so much money. If they had a better way of doing it,
Right.
like if Samsung came out with a phone that
Right.
charged 100% in 30 seconds, and Apple would have to figure out how to compete with that.
Right.
They would have that out. They
Right.
wouldn't hold on to that.
I think
No
you-
one would hold on to that because that would just dominate
too
the
powerful,
market.
right?
It would dominate the market.
Yeah,
But
it's too powerful.
But that happens. That's what always happens.
Yeah.
That's how Blockbuster's out of business.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's why there's no more Tower Records. All that
It's
shit
true.
happened in our lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. Like 100%. Music isn't even physical.
Right.
Like, and I make music and it's not real.
Right. It's a sound.
Yeah, it's a sound. And fuck, you know? I don't know.
That is a crazy way to look at music. What is this? The R17 Pro, which is the company's latest, is the fastest charging smartphone in the world. It advertises that 35 minutes is all it takes to entirely fill up a dead battery.
That was 7 months ago. So
So it's probably faster
they
now.
got something like that for sure.
35 minutes. So what do you think they can do like for a full battery?
I would say that there's probably 100 cell phones out there that can charge in 5 minutes. There's not a million
Right.
because they can't source that much.
Wait a minute, charge more than this can? Like
Yeah, like I would say like there's a military phone that they might have 100 of them passed around the military, but it's not mass produced.
and it can
because-
charge up in 5 minutes?
Sure, for
Really?
sure, for sure. If this can do 35 minutes,
You two should get
7
a
times faster is easy.
You guys are all conspiratorial on
That's not even a
electronics.
big- that's not
No,
that big.
it's just, I mean, to me, that's
That's
normal.
a big leap.
To me,
Not
that
that
shit
big.
is normal. This is energy that we're talking about, right?
Right.
Bro, like, cars still move off of gas. Like, that shit
true.
is like the Stone Age, bro. Like, shit's going electric. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's on some spaceship shit. So I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, they have this shit. They just can't give it to you because they're killing people testing it. It's like it's like food, you know what I mean? Like they have to approve this shit before it comes out, but they have a car that goes, it just crashed into the wall, you know what I mean? And somebody died in it and they're like, whoa, we can't put this on the streets yet. It's like all of that shit, energy,
Really?
yeah, like
Well, you think they have a car that's so fast they can't put it on the street?
they have I just feel like transportation in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Communication, transportation,
Yep.
technology, the way we hear music, the way that we view things and shit like that. Our whole experience, technology,
Technological.
whatever the fucking word is, we're being spoon-fed. FaceTime, you know what I'm saying? It was like you used to have the service to FaceTime.
Right.
Now everybody can FaceTime. You know what I mean? It's like people don't even call each other no more. They just FaceTime. So we feel like, oh man, we came up. This was blah, blah, blah. Like we feel good about that. We feel excellent about it. But there's more. I feel like that's just me. I just feel like they're just sitting on it. You know what I mean? They're waiting to give it to us.
I don't think companies have any reason to do that.
Yeah.
The only reason to do that would be to get rid of the stock of the stuff that they're already selling. That'd be the only reason. Because sometimes when companies announce a new product's coming, people stop buying the old product. Like Corvette is having a problem with that right now.
Okay.
Because the Corvette, excuse me, they got this car, the ZR1. You seen
Right.
that thing?
Yep.
It's a demon. It's ridiculous that you could go to a store and buy a car that has that much horsepower. But a lot of people don't want to buy them because then there's a new Corvette coming out in like a year.
Right.
That's a mid-engine, total new design. They
Gotcha.
don't want to be stuck with the old one.
Got you.
People get weird.
Yeah, that's true.
So in that sense, they might be holding out on what they're about to be able to do. But like we saw with that foldable phone that Samsung tried to come out with, and then they had to take it back because it was so defective. So many of them were breaking. It was a giant embarrassment, and they pulled the whole thing.
Right.
And now they're trying to rework it and figure out what to do with it. That's like, if a company has something like that happen, and that's the number 2 smartphone company in the world, they're number 1, right? Samsung's number 1. Huawei's number 2, Apple's number 3. That's the number 1 cell phone manufacturer in the world, and they got that kind of a fuck up. There's no way. They're not holding back anything. I don't think so. I think they're trying to sell the best shit they have right now, and then they're in development with the next level shit right now. But as far as like what they can bring to market, what they have is what they bring to market. I think like those on-screen fingerprint sensors, they didn't used to be able to do that. Now they can. You just touch the glass and it reads it. All that shit is like, they're just trying to get it dialed in to the point where they could sell it to enough people and it doesn't break. Like that stupid folding. Did you see that folding screen?
Yeah, it's like a fucking, you could, like, it was a regular phone, but it folded though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it would fold open to like an iPad.
To an iPad, yeah, that shit's stupid.
But that thing kept breaking.
Okay.
And, you know, when it came out, everybody's like, holy shit, this is the future. The glass bends.
I think there's like you said, there's like the people who just freak out about whatever's new, right?
Right.
And then there's like shit that really moves you know what I'm saying? Like really changes shit. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And there's a huge difference between those. Like, you got the people who just want the new shit, and then you got motherfuckers who's actually like doing shit that changes things forever. Like, streaming changed music forever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like mini discs and all of that other stupid shit that people were trying to do to change music. It didn't work. You know what I mean? And it didn't exist. So it's like the one thing that stands out and changes things forever. That's what motherfuckers remember. I don't know if they're holding it or not. It is what it is, but like, there's some smart motherfuckers who designed this shit for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, you got people who just consume it and they're just like, oh man, I'm here for whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And then I feel like there's a lot of people who understand it and know how to play off of, you know what I mean, those people's emotions. And then that's where you get like, you know what I mean? What we have now.